All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ayana Polk. I'm the Director of Community Partnerships here at Vital Connections, and we are here for this month's Community Convo. I know last month we talked about building your care team, what that looks like for you all. And I know we talked about a lot of things, and we definitely talked about the different kinds of folks on your care team and the types of things you can do to be healthy and well. So we thought about it as a team and thought about the time of year, what's going on. And we knew that it was important for us as we get into the holiday season and we start to look at those recipes and start looking at all the posts on Instagram about and Facebook about our massive plates that we're going to be taking home. I know some of us try to think about, what does that look like when we're thinking about our health. I know our health isn't the number one thing we don't necessarily want to talk about that until we get to January when we make our resolutions, but we know that everyone has different wellness needs and goals in mind. So tonight we're going to have three really great guests here with us to talk through what it looks like to think about your food, your culture, and wellness during this holiday season. So just to let you know how tonight is going to go, of course, I'm giving you the big hello right here. Um, in true Vital Connections fashion, we do some shared language to kind of let you know what we're talking about so everyone's starting at the same foundation. We're going to have our discussion with our guests, of course, Q&A, and then we'll wrap up from there. So to kick us off in talking about the topic of tonight, food culture and wellness, I want to pass the virtual mic over to our health equity scholar, Mary Ann Udebo, to talk about food culture and wellness. Mary Ann?
Hi everyone, I'm Marianne Davis. As Ayana said, I'm one of this year's Health Equity Scholars. I'm so excited to be here with you guys tonight. The first thing we wanted to start with are like sharing some people who can help you guys, who can support you, as you guys think about nutrition and as you guys think about, during this time and also all year round, like thinking about food and your health. So two big characters in that are dietitians and nutritionists who have slightly different jobs. So we want to like clarify how best each of these people can help you. So dietitians are trained to diagnose and treat nutrition-related health issues. They often work in healthcare settings like hospitals, clinics, nursing homes, and offer medical care specifically for like the kind of cardio metabolic conditions that we talk about a lot, diabetes, heart disease, or specifically eating disorders. They also work in community settings, research, and food service management, which differs from nutritionists who do less on the medical side, but more often focus on general wellness and healthy eating rather than specifically medical conditions. They may want to provide advice on weight management or specifically sports nutrition, or general healthy eating habits, but they don't provide medical nutrition therapy in the same way that a dietitian would. So, we also wanted to touch upon some key nutrients, some key things that are important to be putting in your body. Because I feel like we always talk about like the benefits of healthy eating, and like how not eating healthy can have effects on your cardiometabolic health. But sometimes I feel like we don't break down enough like what specific things do in your body and why you need them. So we thought it'd be interesting to share key nutrients. So for carbohydrates, they're the body's main source of energy for brain and physical functions. And they're found in all kinds of food. I know you guys hear a lot about when people are talking about like, diets or different eating trends about all about this about carbs, that about carbs, but they're found in all different kinds of foods, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, dairy products, which is almost pretty much everything. So they're pretty diverse and found in a lot of stuff. Next up, we have proteins, which support muscle growth and repair, um, as well as immune function and enzyme production. So those are things like you commonly know are found in meat and fish, eggs, dairy, beans, nuts, seeds, legumes. Um, Yeah, and then lastly, we have fats, which are very important for energy storage, insulation. I know it's cold out, absorption of vitamins, and also they support heart health and brain function. So that's pretty crucial, and that's a lot of very major things going on with your body. So a lot of the healthy fats that we actually do need to survive, despite what you may hear about this and that regarding fat, which I'm sure we'll get into later. So healthy fats are found in avocados, nuts, seeds, oils, fatty fish, and butter. So we're gonna do three more of like the six essential nutrients. Which water, which I didn't commonly consider a nutrient until looking into this, but water is obviously very important as it's essential for digestion, circulation, and temperature regulation. Obviously you can drink it straight up, but it's also found in fruits, vegetables, and beverages like tea or soup. Water is found in a lot of the things we consume on a daily basis. Um, and then for vitamins, they're crucial for like immune function. You know, you take them when you're sick or, not feeling too great. And there's a lot of different vitamins that serve very specific purposes, specifically like vision, skin health, bone health, or energy production. And again, they're found in all sorts of types of foods, specifically fruits, vegetables, meat, fish, and dairy. So a lot of like kind of those natural fruits, vegetables, and produce and like meats that you would find. Um, and then lastly, we have minerals, which are very important for bone health, fluid balance in your body, if you ever like feel like a lot of fluid retention, nerve function, and muscle contractions. So this is interestingly found in salt, dairy, meats, fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Yeah, and I know that was a lot of big, sometimes like biology science words, but I think it's really important for us to break down the different things that you're eating and why they matter and why you should be thinking about the kinds of things that you need to put in your body on a regular basis. So, more on the topic of today's conversation is food and culture. As we know, the holidays are coming up. This is a big time for people to be together with family and eat some good food, as Ayana was saying. So we acknowledge that the holidays are often a time to reconnect with family and celebrate heritage and community through cultural recipes. And these dishes often hold like a deep cultural significance, representing family traditions and memories. Um, I know I have a few of my mom's favorite recipes that, despite what anyone says, I'm not giving up for the world. So I think we all have those kind of things that around this season we get really attached to. And that's totally normal. And that's why food is such a big part of everyone's cultures. But we also wanted to touch on during this season, we know that some of these dishes are made with ingredients that are not so great for our health, such as a lot of sugar, saturated fats, sodium, alcohol, or processed ingredients. And then when these things are eaten regularly, they may lead to cardiometabolic conditions and illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sorry, etc. So we know that we all love to eat foods like this on special occasions like the holidays, but like what happens when you're already impacted by some of these conditions or working to lower your risks? How do we work to balance, food, and enjoying food because food is meant to be enjoyed and our culture, eating the things we love with the people we love and our wellness, focusing on our health, and supporting our bodies because those things don't need to be at odds. And today we're going to talk a lot about how we can, bridge all of those. So, as I touched on, today's convo we'll be talking about where to get your food, how to prepare it, healthy substitutes for certain ingredients, and then food's impact on your health, balancing illness with enjoying food, and balancing health and culture through the holidays.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you so much, Marianne, for walking us through that. I always love starting our convos that way. That way we kind of get a tidbit of, the what. So everyone's starting in the same space. But now that we've had a bit of background, I'm really excited to start our conversation. I am going to get our virtual stage together. Um, Let us see. Uh, let's see. Now, first, when we talk about our guests that we have here tonight, I want to start with Christine Sinclair. She is the registered dietitian over at Stop and Shop. You may know her from the Grove Hall Stop and Shop, right there in the neighborhood. Christine, I'm really happy that you're here. I know we tried to get you before, but you're here now, and this is the perfect time to talk about food and wellness and the work that you do, right? I think it's really unique that there's a dietitian in a grocery store. But in true Vital Connections fashion, I would love to know, like, what's your why? What got you started in this work and what brings you here tonight?
Yes, thank you all for allowing me to be a part of your space, and for Ayanna for inviting me, and thank you, Marianne, for that presentation. That was really helpful. Nice recap. That was really good. So as Ayanna said, I'm the registered dietitian that works I'm work for Stop and Shop. We have a team of dietitians. I am specifically in person live out of the Grove Hall store. So you can find me there in my office, and we also have a wellness space there. But my why is a long story, but let me see if I can kind of shave it down a little bit. I had always been kind of on a journey in health in many different capacities, wanted to go to medical school, kind of didn't feel quite settled with all of that, and took a break to live abroad. And it was when I was abroad, I kind of had an epiphany around all of the things that I had already been a part of, that had already been a part of my life for a while. So my family's from the Caribbean. So growing up, there was always food cooked in the home. We always had vegetables. We didn't talk about food in the way we talk about it here like carbohydrates, proteins, fat, but there was always some kind of protein. There was always some kind of starch on the plate. There was also vegetables on the plate as well. But I realized in my epiphany, which I believe was sent to me, was that, food had always been an integral part of like family culture, our families' lives. We would always gather around food, and it was always a place where I was learning from my grandmother and mostly my grandmother, and my mom would show me a little bit. And uh, yeah, when I had my epiphany, I realized that I enjoy um, helping people realize that they can do something when they feel like they can't. And it just so happens that it was always through the lens of like healthy eating and wellness. So me and friends going to the gym in college, trying different kinds of diets and cooking and doing all these different things. And so that really is my why is I enjoy encouraging people and really just learning about people and encouraging them and it just so happens that it happens through a lens of healthy eating. And people realize when they can say yes, when they know that they are able to do something in one area, maybe it's food, they can also do something else in another area of their lives as well. So that's my why.
Awesome. Thank you. I always love to know everyone's origin story. And I feel like everyone we talk to always, they've been on this path to where they are today, whether they know it or not. So thank you for sharing a bit about yourself. So first, you got to go to the store and get the food. Then afterwards, you got to cook it, right? So the next person I want to bring up to the virtual stage is Elle Scott, who is a food artist and chef over at America's Test Kitchen. I have been blessed to try some of her meals. And I thought it was really awesome to bring Ellen to this space because I know she's not a practitioner, but someone who, works with food every day. And, as someone who thinks about wellness as well, I just thought it would be great to have you. So thank you for making time for us here. But I also would love to know your why. What got you interested in food? And even just thinking about your own wellness, what brings you here tonight?
Well, I had a very interesting path to food in that I did not initially start off professionally in food. I was a social worker for many years, and I worked with many populations, but one of the most impactful ones was working with youth who were aging out of the system and teaching them independent living skills. And that included, you know, how to make basic, nutritious meals for themselves. And so when my time in social work organically ended, I pursued culinary arts. I come from a family of good cooks. I like to make this joke that I am not the best cook in my family. I'm just the only one who does it professionally. So, you know, so everyone cooks well. Is the cooking part is very much part of my family's communal experience, right? We always gather in the kitchen. Every house, every relative has ever had has kitchen big enough to hold at least 10 people, right? So that's where we solved our problems. That's where we, you know, celebrated wins, consoled during losses, right? So there was always like this mental health, physical health connection for me with food, even before I became a professional chef. I ended up at America's Test Kitchen, also in a quite ironic way, which is a whole nother panel discussion. But what intrigued me the most about America's Test Kitchen is that they approach food from a scientific perspective. And I've always been like a science nerd. Like I could not get more than a C+ in like geometry, but chemistry, physics, biology, totally my bag. So working at a company where food is approached in a scientific way completely makes sense, right? And we also have a strong nutrition lane that we drive in when we're developing recipes there. And a lot of recipes that we do are not original, right? I don't think there's really any such thing as an original recipe. You know, it's a revamp of recipes that have existed forever. And so, we like to take recipes that home cooks enjoy and recreate them or refashion them. I'll say not recreate, but refashion them in a way that it can become a part of their everyday dining experience without it being at the expense of their health, right? So I think being at America's Test Kitchen has made me very aware, much more aware than perhaps even having gone through culinary school, that you can enjoy the things that you have always enjoyed in a way that doesn't have to be to your detriment. It can still taste delicious. And as a food stylist, it can also still look very beautiful and appealing. So I think being able to reach people in that way is important to me. I always wished that I could have come into this space sooner. I maybe could have improved my grandparents' quality of life as they were aging, and no regrets, no looking back, right? I knew what I knew when I knew it, and I didn't know what I didn't know when I didn't know it, right? But now that I know, I'm working more wholeheartedly at doing that for my parents and my aunts and my uncles. My mother is, she has a palate of a third grader. Do we talk about this? She loves a Happy Meal or McDonald's or something like this, right? And so I have, in the past 10 years, because of my health journey, I'm a cancer thriver. I live with metastatic ovarian cancer chronically, which I have since 2016. I have become more aware of how I eat. And so I cook in a way that is beneficial for health. And so now my mother eats in a way that's more beneficial for health. And you can tell, she's like, Ayana, you've seen my mother. She's aging slowly, People are still mistaking us for sisters, but it's because she's now more aware of how she eats. And I just want to do that for my community even more. So that's my why.
Thank you for that. And I do agree. Your mom is definitely aging gracefully. So check to what you said about that. So finally, after you cooked it, you've gone to the store, you cooked it, you've prepared it and eaten it. How do we continue this conversation? How do we get involved? How do we continue to find resources? And that's where we bring in our third special guest, a very close friend to the Vital Connections family, Rebecca Riley Green, who is the community leader over at MFAC. who does a lot of work in the food access space. She was here when we did our community convo on community wellness in January. So really happy that you were here to join us again. But yeah, as someone who was passionate about getting people access to what they need, what's your why? And and tell us a little bit about your role over at Impact.
Good evening, everyone. My why is community, but to back up, my role at INFACT is the community leader for INFACT and Vital Connections, and I also help run the Hyde Park Food Pop-Up in Hyde Park. But when I think about my why, my biggest why is our community, right? Our community is the closest to the issues that we face around food insecurity, and empowering our community to be that voice of the issues that they see in the community around food access. My biggest eye opener, I think, was during COVID when I would go to food pantries and different resources around the community to help some of my neighbors that wasn't able to get to the food pantries, and I would pick up food and I'm like, wait a minute, it's like rice, tuna, pasta every week and peanut butter. Like, where's the produce? Where's the variety? Like, it's one thing to have access to food, but having access to culturally appropriate food and food that you want to eat, right? So that's big. Like, it's sometimes you can have access to food, but it's not so much the food that you may like to eat or the food that you should be eating. So I think that's when I became more engaged in, like, how do we change like the food that's available, or engage like collaboration with different like supermarkets. And I got involved with a lot of food rescue at Food Rescue US, just around like being able to give our community culturally appropriate food and nutritious food. After that, I started to get closely involved with working with Ricardo at the Hyde Park Food Pop-Up, where we serve over 200 families a week, and we're very conscious on making sure that we are serving our community fresh produce and culturally appropriate food. Like, we don't, I know sometimes with donations, like it could be, it's what you get sometimes, but we don't give it out. Like, we don't give out what, we wouldn't feed our families or what we wouldn't eat. And another big piece of, my why is like teaching the nutrition piece of it. Like, why is it important to incorporate, fresh produce in your diet? Like, it's not just eat produce because it's healthy for you, but why is it healthy? So we do a lot around teaching nutrition at our food site. So while the community is waiting to get food, we have nutritionists there from the Y that are teaching the community about like some of the food we're giving out, and giving them healthy demonstrations on like what to do with some of the food that we're giving out, because they may not know what to do with it, or they may just get home and say, I don't know what this is. So, just educating them on like ways to like utilize the fresh produce. So that's, I think, my biggest why is just my community and ensuring that they have access to like nutritious, culture appropriate food. And also that they know how to advocate for themselves and advocate for others.
Yes, thank you for that. I mean, I've seen you in real time, and I know you're just like, yeah, this is what we do. But Rebecca, I love seeing you in action. I love seeing the fact that you've used something that you are passionate about to like inspire other people and get them involved and get them connected. And we'll definitely be talking more about that. But as someone who's seen it in real time, I just want to definitely lift you up in this space that, I really appreciate the work that you do as a community leader.
Thank you.
Yeah, so all right. So now we know a little bit about who we have here. So, let's get to conversing or conversating, as some people say. So, I know a lot of times with some folks that we've talked to about this topic, there's usually a little, there's that little apprehension of talking about healthy food once we're getting into the November and December time. But of course, with this being community convo, we make this a space where we could kind of, take the deep dive and discuss. So of course, for anyone that's in the audience, you can always feel free to put, your thoughts in the chat to kind of keep the conversation going. I may pause at a moment and ask questions, so feel free to raise your hand if you feel like you want to chime in. But I just wanted to share that, and you'll also have time at the end to ask questions. So feel free to be a part of the conversation. But to get us kicked off, I know a lot of times we think about community wellness, and for us, that is us doing what we can to lower risk for cardiometabolic illnesses and diseases such as diabetes, high blood pressure, just like Marianne said in the beginning. So when we think about nutrition, and specifically food at this time of year as a part of community wellness, I wanted to kind of pose to you all, what are kind of the links between like your diet and your health? I want to kind of start there to get us started, and we could kind of go from there. But I will kind of kick that off to Christine, since you're the dietitian with us. So could you walk us through a bit about how your diet is directly connected to your health?
Yes, absolutely. And I really liked what Rebecca said about, right? Most people know that we all know we're supposed to eat fruits and vegetables, right? We know they said it's good for us. We're supposed to eat more, but how does that actually impact our diabetes? How does that actually impact high blood pressure? I think we have to start giving people a little bit more information. And so that's one of the reasons why I am in the community, is to help take the time to explain a little bit more for people how it actually works, how it happens. Our conversation today is short, but again, I'm available. But so when we talk about cardiometabolic health, that's in reference to something you might have heard of called cardiometabolic disease. We've been mentioning it tonight, which is a cluster of conditions that can include heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke. And when we say when we're saying that, we're saying someone actually might be living with more than one of these conditions, which puts them at risk for severe complications from these conditions. So when we're talking about diet, right, how does our diet or what we're eating impact these conditions? One simple way to think about it is what kinds of lifestyle modifications, such as what we eat, how much we eat, and then how often we're moving our bodies, and how those things can actually prevent and or manage these conditions. So for example, recommendations to lower sodium from our processed foods, eating more fiber through our fruits and vegetables and our whole grains, like Marian talked about earlier, can help us reduce blood pressure. It can help us reduce our A1C, which is that marker for our blood sugar management and diabetes status, and also help to reduce cholesterol, because these foods tend to be lower, for example, in saturated fat, and saturated fat is what increases bad cholesterol in the body. And then thinking about just in a general sense, when we walk into the produce section of the store, what do we see? We see tons of color. And we know that our fruits and our vegetables have all these beautiful colors. And it's not just because they have these beautiful colors, but they actually mean something for the body. So these our fruits and vegetables have naturally occurring compounds called phytonutrients, which actually help to protect us from cancer. It strengthens our immune system, and it supports our overall health by protecting our eyes. It protects our brain, our bones, our hearts, etc. So this is like a general, right, sense of how diet affects our affects these particular conditions. I'll give two more examples. Foods that contain potassium, that might be bananas or sweet potatoes. Potassium actually helps to remove sodium from the body. So for someone who has high blood pressure, focusing on foods that contain potassium and calcium and some other nutrients can actually help to remove sodium from the body. Or it might be, we say, reduce processed foods in the diet, because most people are getting more sodium in their diet through processed foods. It's not by seasoning with salt. It's not when you're at the stove and seasoning. It's more through our processed foods. And so reducing the amount of processed foods and focusing more on those whole foods that have the fiber and those beautiful colors is what actually helps to reduce blood pressure, bring down our blood sugars, etc.
Thank you. That was a great opening. I think, with some of the things that you said, I'm even thinking about, a lot of the questions that we've seen folks have at either our community health hubs or out in the community about kind of like in the chat, how we've got like, can I do this? Is this healthy? Is that not healthy? So I think that was a great place to start. I think, since we're right here with you, I kind of want to go a little bit further. So when we think about like shopping for these options, now that we have so much processed food, when we're in the store, how can we make sure that we're making healthy choices when we're going up and down the aisles?
Yeah. So one thing that I try to think about, and you all may have seen that My Plate image before, where it has half the plate is vegetables and some fruit on it, and the other part has some whole grains and some lean protein. Harvard also has their healthy eating plate, which is kind of similar as well. They incorporate a few other elements like physical activity and water. It's the same thing, right? Before you get to the plate, you actually have to get to the basket. So what you put in the basket will help inform what you're going to put on the plate. So when we're going up and down the aisles, thinking about that image of balance, and that's kind of how we refer to it, our image of balance, balancing a meal. So our cart should be filled with tons of fruits, colorful fruits and vegetables. Thinking about our whole grains, so that might mean a millet or a what do you call it? What's that grain that I like to eat? Bulgur. That might mean brown rice, right? These are some whole grains, oats, things like that. And then the other part of the plate are lean proteins. So lean meaning lower in saturated fat, and saturated fat is what increases bad cholesterol. So we want to have lower in saturated fat. So if it's dairy, that might mean something that says low fat or non-fat. In terms of our meat, that might mean fish or chicken without the skin, or turkey, like a ground turkey that says 98% lean. And then the other part of the plate, we talked about the vegetables, we talked about our protein, and we talked about our grains as well. So filling your cart with more of those foods that are in their whole form, if you will, is a great place to start. And we have tons of resources on our web page also that break down all of these different elements.
Thank you for that, Christine. And I'm going to make sure that we share those things out with you all, because I know she shared a whole bunch of links with me that I've been looking through. And I think they're going to be really great as you go to the store, probably Stop and Shop, to get what you need. But, with thinking about this time of year, I want to bring Elle into the conversation. So when we're thinking about all these great foods that we're putting in our shopping carts, and thinking about this time of year, when auntie uses butter, but we may not want to use the butter. What are some ways that you can kind of help us talk through balancing food and culture during the holiday?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And the real answers to that often I get a lot of pushback behind it. Because it is not our cultural norm, right? And so one of the things I tend to remind people when they're cooking in general is that you really only need like salt and pepper, right? It's I grew up where in one pot you would have garlic powder, onion powder, seasoning salt, accent, maybe some iodinized salt, pepper, right? Like these were the ways, that my great aunts seasoned any food, right? And as we know, back in the day, MSG was a huge table recipe. I mean, I think to some degree it still hits the table now, not as much as before, but it's a problematic ingredient, and I try to encourage people to think about food, as Christine said, in a whole way, right? Like if you use onions, you don't need onion powder. If you use fresh garlic, you don't need garlic powder, right? So trying to get people to understand, not even understand, just the mindfulness of using whole ingredients and how it actually improves the taste of your food. Like people are very accustomed to habit, right? The habit of buying all of the flavors from a bottle on the shelf when you can really create those same flavors shopping the parameter of your grocery store. And a lot of people, the first argument I get is, well, we only eat like this on the holiday, so like one time a year isn't bad, but odds are people are, eating like that pretty consistently throughout the years. Not, if it were just the holiday, we wouldn't need to have this discussion, right? But they're eating like this on, all year round. So, getting people it's hard to adjust your palate when you've been eating another way. So what I try to do is to introduce people to recipes that give them the same satisfaction as a dish that they like, but has more nutritional value. It's kind of a, swap it in and out. Perfect example. I'm here in New Orleans and I'm teaching some courses at Dillard University for food studies, right? And a lot of these young people are from the South and they are accustomed to eating a certain way. And so what I did was, I made them some roasted sweet potatoes that really only had like a little chicken stock, some honey, garlic, a little salt, a little pepper, a little cornstarch for thickening, like literally a teaspoon, right? And they were so in love with this sweet potato dish, and we're like, where's the casserole dish? Is there more potatoes? And I was like, actually, we just roasted these on a sheet tray in the oven. And I told them the recipe and they were like, that tastes just like my grandmother's. If you can get people to be open-minded, to be flexible about the ways in which they use ingredients, they really can be fulfilled in the same way. It's not about missing out. It's about adding value. So when I'm talking to people about how to make these adjustments with their meals, they are often reluctant until they actually try it. And I encourage people one dish at a time, like we're not asking you to have tofurkey for your for your next Thanksgiving, right? We're asking you to consider using different fats as opposed to using lean meats as opposed to fatty meats, using fresh vegetables as opposed to canned vegetables. Sure, it's a little bit more time consuming, but the quality of the food is so much more improved when you do that, So, it's baby steps. It is baby steps.
Got you. Okay.
Could I add? I want to.
Yeah, go ahead. Because I feel like the chat's jumping. I think you made a hot take with the salt and pepper, but we'll get back to that. But Christine, go ahead.
I appreciate that. What you said, Elle, like using those fresh ingredients. And I really think really, sometimes it really is just allowing people to be able to taste the difference, right? Like you try something different, you taste it, and you say, wow, that tastes different. It's really good. Or it could be like, I'm not feeling that, but you can still begin to tweak it a little bit here and there to your liking, using fresh ingredients and all of that. I will say though, in terms of like the spices, and I think there's a question in the chat. In my mind, when I think about adding flavor, the garlic powders and the onion powder, I use onions and garlic fresh, right? And I also use some of the powders. I think that the bigger issue becomes when it comes to our health is garlic salts or like an onion salt, right? So some of those seasonings tend to have crazy tons of sodium in them, and might have some other ingredients that we don't really need to have in the diet. So I guess that's my takeaway, is that I might say bolster up the flavors with using and fresh ingredients and or some onions, right, powders, the powders versus the salts. So like a garlic powder versus a garlic salt.
Yes, thank you for that. And I see Sheila's hand. I'm going to call on you, Sheila, but one thing I do see Millie. That's kind of the hot take that I had seen about the no extra seasonings. And as someone who loves a seasoning, right? I have a cabinet on cabinet. I collect them. I collect them like nobody's business. It's ridiculous. But as someone who loves seasonings and is mindful of their health, I definitely look at the labels on the seasonings that I'm buying, especially those mixed ones. And it's like, I didn't realize how much salt and other things they pack in there, just like Christine has said. So sometimes some of those flavors that we're picking up are salt. And to the point that Millie was making about like adobo or sazon, like certain companies may put those combo seasonings together and put a lot of salt just to make it like get that we like. So there are some brands out there who try to do salt free, that maybe like small batch or local, that make sure like you're not getting like red dye number 76, and it's like the actual vegetable or herb ground together in that combo seasoning. So it's really important to read your labels too with your seasonings. But Sheila, go ahead. I see that your hand's raised.
Yes, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is very enlightening to me because I use a lot of fresh things like onions and garlic all the time. But I use a lot of spices, and I think, and I have high blood pressure, so I don't use anything with salt in it. But your last panelist, she talked about something about MSG. I heard her say that, and I wanted her to maybe explain that, because I'm asking, well, do some of these spices that I think are really good for me, like I use turmeric, and I use all kinds of stuff like garlic powder and all kinds of things I can find at Trader Joe's that are saltless. So should I be aware of some of these spices maybe having MSG in them? So that's like my concern. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'll hand it over to one of you to answer that.
I'm going to defer to Christine on the MSG question, but I just wanted to add in that since we're talking about paying attention to labels, as a person who lives with a chronic disease, I just try to steer away from, things that have ingredients that I don't like, words I don't know. Like I'm not a scientist, but I know something that ends with "ide" is not particularly, something that I want in my body. Or if I can't identify it, for me, that's what it is. If I can't read it and know exactly what it is, that's kind of a red flag for me, right? I know that there are some studies behind MSG and how good or bad people tend to think it is, but I'm not versed in that. So I will, I will defer to Christine to answer the MSG question, but I know for me, because I have issues with blood production, I try to stay away from anything that could put me in the high sodium category.
Christine, I'll give you a minute.
Yeah. So yes, there are some studies about MSG in terms of whether they're good or bad. I'm gonna have to. This is a question that comes up every so often. So I'll see if I can find some resources and maybe we'll share it back out with everybody. I know that there's a few dietitians who talk very much openly about this and the history in terms of um, discrimination against the Asian community and how MSG kind of came to be the bad thing. And then so there's some research to back some of that up. So I don't know the answer to that, so I'd have to look it up. But MSG is a source of sodium. So if your spices do contain MSG, do know that you are going to be consuming sodium. And if you're trying to limit sodium intake, you might want to find a spice that doesn't have the MSG in it. So at the most basic level, thinking about spices that are just that ingredient. For example, you might buy a chili powder, which I didn't realize the other recently, and some chili powders is just whatever the chili is. Some chili powders actually have salt in it, and I didn't realize. So you really want to take a look at the back and the ingredients and see what's listed in there for sure. And the food companies do have some food companies will have like high salt seasonings, but then some of them, for example, the Sazon, you can actually find some lower sodium Sazon and some of these other cultural spices that we might see in the grocery store as well.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Mhm.
Rebecca, I want to bring you in because I know we've been talking about kind of like the science of the food, how to prepare it, and some tips and tricks. But I also want to think about some of like the community discussions that we've been having around some of these points, right? Because we know that, we look for spaces in our community to look for, fresh foods, the whole foods, no pun intended, that our panelists were talking about. But just thinking about access alone to those items, right? I just, from your vantage point of working in the community with MFAC, I just wanted to give you space to kind of comment about what does access to healthy food look like in Boston?
So, one thing I thought about as I listened to the discussions on, the spices and reading the labels, it's all about like educating the community, right, on these things. So one thing that we do is, as a part of InFact, we have meetings that is community driven, and we bring in different speakers to talk about those things like reading food labels, hypertension, things that you may not think is high sodium that is, or even, it's easy to buy onion powder. It's hard to make an onion powder, but you can make a sofrito or you could grind up your herbs. It takes prep, right? But you could grind up those herbs and make your own dry powder and use it. But just bringing in speakers to educate the community on, ways to cook differently, ways to shop differently. And we make it a point to bring in speakers to educate the community, because when we educate the community, one, they're learning, but they're also teaching others. As far as access, I think access in general it's a challenge that we continue to face. But we're helping in ways of where, we have advocates that go out and we're teaching the community about SNAP, about Double Up Bucks, about HIP, about farmers market, and about applying for SNAP, right? Applying for SNAP gives you the more resources to purchase healthy foods. So we do have advocates that are out in the community, educating the community, but then also we have the 2 food sites, the Hyde Park pop-up that I talked about, and then for 4, which is a food site in Roslindale under NFAC. Another big thing is in our meetings is we're constantly sharing resources on how to access healthy foods, how to apply for different not so much grants, but different programs that will give you access to healthy foods monthly. So we're constantly sharing out information and resources. And one of the biggest ways we do it is with the food resource guide that I know you'll share later on in the meeting for like different resources for Thanksgiving. But I think it's all about like educating the community and getting that information out there.
Yeah, definitely. Um, to kind of piggyback off of that, I think do and yes, the food access problem in our community is deep, it's wide, but we've really seen a lot of community organizations like NFAC, work with partners like Stop and Shop and other organizations to make sure that people are well educated and have access to these foods. I would say, if anything, I know during the holiday time, it can be specifically different or difficult given the fact that, holidays and, food usually bring people together. And I know you kind of talked a bit about the resource guide that we'll be sharing, but, what does it look like for NFAC and the community to think about access during like this time of year?
I think it's the share out of resources. We have the food programs, but we also share other food programs. We also share information on Daily Table. Christine is a partner of ours. We've had our members go out to Stop and Shop and take nutrition classes and cooking classes. I actually took one and enjoyed it. But just like sharing out those resources and, getting the community members access, as we learn things, having open communication, having an email, having our phone number available if someone needs food. It may not be on a Friday that we can help them, but we know that we have a partner that has a program on Saturday. So calling to say, hey, we have a family who needs food. Can you make them a box? They're coming down, so that they feel comfortable and welcome. Because that's a huge thing too, is like, being able to access the food, but not having that stigma around like needing food, right? Because needing food doesn't mean like you don't have money. It means like you have choices to make to get that food that week. So I think it's just sharing resources and creating that space for the community to feel comfortable utilizing those resources as well.
Mm. Thank you for that, Rebecca. And again, I'm always in awe about NFAC. They are deep in these streets, boy. I've
Yes,
seen it
and
all.
we are open to membership. We'll share the link if you want to join our meetings. We'd love to have you. We'd love, even if it's to drop into one. We'd love to have you join us.
Yeah, I know I've sat through them and I learn something new every day. So definitely check to what Rebecca said. Um, so I want to kind of think about you know, with this time of year, and Elle, I know you brought this up a bit about eating with kind of like chronic illness in mind, right? And I know different illnesses look different for everyone. They may show up in the body differently, might be kicked off by sugar, by salt, by something else. But when thinking about like our family members or even ourselves, right? When we're coming into spaces and let's say we're not sure who cooked, or it's like, oh, what should we do? Or I'm kind of thinking like, okay, I'm preparing for January, trying to make sure I know I'm going to start doing my New Year's resolutions. So I'm trying to prepare, right? You know, how can we make sure that if we're not the one cooking, right, that we're still making good choices, given whatever scenario we might come into? Or what does it look like if you even want to share a personal experience about kind of managing chronic, chronic things? I'll pause and let you go. Let's see, you about to jump in.
Well, I mean, I've had at least two different types of experiences with my family, right? I think in the beginning of my diagnosis, maybe around the 2016, 2018, I think you know, everyone was kind of still carrying on business as usual with food when I would, you know, come home for the holiday. And, you know, I would contribute to the meal, right? I would bring a contribution, maybe something, you know, like I said, similar to what we normally would have, but made in a different way, and start just introducing them to different things. And a lot of those things have turned into things that they ask me to make and bring all the time, right? So like, not just talking about it, but being about it, you know, being involved in the shift in the way that your family eats is really important. And like, not, you know, not being afraid to be the one, you know, to implement for the first time. You know, it when you're when you're a Black chef from a Black family, the one of the first things your family tells you is don't bring that European standard of cooking here. We cook like this and we do like this. And it's like, I hear what you're saying. I get it, right? Like, we do eat differently. Culturally, we all eat differently. And it is important to you know, to affirm that, right? Because we connect our food with our culture and the strength of our culture and what it means to us, right? So we don't ever want to not affirm those important parts of it. But you know, reminding people that cultural shifts are also real and important. You know, like, none of us are a monolith, right? We can do things in a different way and still enjoy it. And that certainly applies to food. Now, on the other hand, now that I'm almost 10 years in the cancer circuit, if you will, and I am a vocal advocate about cancer awareness, health, you know, like fundraising and all these things is such a huge part of my identity that they can no longer ignore it, if you will. Not that they, you know, not like they're ignoring me, but because I make it such a part of my daily life, is now part of their daily life, right? A lot of us sit on our chronic illnesses, you know, or even if it's not a chronic illness, maybe just something we have going, inflammation. We don't discuss these things with our families. And so they're not really always aware, right? Like, it's something we keep personal. Sometimes there's shame in it, you know, as if we did something wrong, and that's not the case. You know, that's not the case. We like I said, we know what we know when we know it, and we don't when we don't, right? So sometimes the knowledge comes after the disease, unfortunately, but once you know and you start to embrace it, discuss it with your family, really be an advocate for yourself, those people who love you will follow suit. They will follow suit. Now they're like, we already know, my family calls me Shonda, that we know Shonda's not going to eat that. So we're just going to adjust. Or they're like, we're going to do a fish fry for Christmas. This is a conversation we're actually having right now. We're planning a literal fish fry for Christmas. And I'm like, that sounds delicious, but does everybody really want to just sit around and eat fried fish for a whole 4 or 5 hours? Like, can we have like some broiled shrimp? Can we have some, you know, other things that are cooked in other ways that people still enjoy, right? So I think, you know, being an advocate with your family, you know, being an advocate for yourself within your family shows that there's, you know, strength in that, you know, and those that also have issues that they can address with food will also, you know, they'll start to think about it, and they will also follow suit.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Christine, I see you nodding, and I wanted to kind of bring you in on that too. As someone who is, you know, a dietitian that, you know, sees folks that are usually using food to get them back, you know, kind of like on the road to wellness or managing, you know, chronic illnesses. You know, what would you say to folks who are kind of entering into like the holiday space with a lot of, you know, with a lot of things that they may not have prepared? How can they best manage those situations if they're looking to kind of, you know, maintain their wellness?
I like what Elle said about, you know, being the example, either being the example or looking to someone who can be an example for you. I think is definitely powerful. And that goes hand in hand with how I tend to talk with customers about, like, what are their goals? And I know we're in the holidays. Someone said this earlier, but it's not just about the holiday foods, right? But it's about how we're eating over time, on a regular basis. So what is your goal? Like, what is the goal? And if your goal is strong enough, that what is your why? If that's strong enough, then if you eat a piece of cake or whatever, you'll get back up, right? You'll get back up and back on the journey towards your health. But if you find that you maybe in a cycle where you feel like you can't stop eating this thing or that thing that might have too much sodium or have too much of this or that isn't benefiting your health, then maybe we have to really reconsider what that why is. And so I would say those things. But during the holidays, again, going back to like how you're shaping your plate, right? What's actually going to be on your plate. And so if you didn't cook the food, what's there that you can put on the plate to help balance out some of those nutrients, right? Keep you full, keep you satisfied. You still were able to eat some of those delicious, traditional dishes and things like that. And if you are cooking the food, yeah, what can you bring? Like, how can you maybe introduce a dish that is similar, as was shared by Elle, and that was maybe made in a different way. So I say think creatively about how you're gonna attack, addressing taking care of yourself. And then I honestly, I've seen it time and time again when people do that. They are an example to other people, even if the family members don't say anything about it. They will become more curious. They will see how you feel better, how things are working for you in the way that you wanted them to, and people will follow suit. I absolutely agree. So, some examples, right? One of the questions you had talked about, like alternatives. So, thinking about what might be missing on your plate, thinking about what you could cut down, and then add what else you can add as part of that missing piece that you've cut out. Thinking about how you've prepared the meal. Can you use low fat milk versus a full fat milk? Can you use, a different kind of ingredient, a no salt butter versus, the salted butter? There's different ways that you can do that. Are you baking versus frying? Are you using the fresh ingredients or the spices without salt instead of the spices with salt? So thinking creatively for yourself with all of as you begin to learn these things, as you hear from family members and friends what they're doing and what's working, and getting that knowledge and that information, put it into practice. Put it into practice. I have customers who, some regular customers who will come in, and they bring their questions, we talk about the questions, we go through the aisles. They've gone to their doctor's office and come back and said, yes, my A1C went down. Yes, my blood pressure went down. One customer said, my doctor ran after me. She ran after me and said, what have you been doing? And she said, no, I've been seeing one of the dietitians over at Stop and Shop. So it's not just me, right? There's others who can help you. And I encourage that. Like, I shouldn't be the only nutrition dietitian voice that you hear, because people will offer different ideas that could work for you. But you get the information and you got to do something with it. We have the information, but we got to do something with it. It's not going to go anywhere if we don't do anything with it. So, yeah, you're in the right place. We're already, on the path.
Since we're in a safe space, really quickly, I just want to say that I am notorious for making recipes and then taking them to my family and letting them say how delicious it is and how good it is. And I'm like, yep, there's only 5 ingredients in there. Low fat milk and this. And then they feel, encouraged, like, oh, taste does not have to be compromised, right? And I think that's something that we should lead with, right? Taste does not have to be compromised to eat better.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that, because I know you've tricked me. I've been tricked before. So it's definitely true that sometimes just being simple and using the whole ingredient, like we've been saying, cliche but true, it definitely changes the way that things taste. Um, I want to go back to Christine because I think there's something I want you to kind of expand on for folks. Because I don't think a lot of people are aware that Stop and Shop has dietitians, which I think is awesome, right? A lot of times when we think about going to the grocery store, it's this big place that has aisles upon aisles of good stuff, not so good stuff, and everything in the middle. Um, but I think it's really important to kind of highlight Stop and Shop and what they're doing, especially in communities where there are a lot of things where diet can help lower risk. So I just wanted to give you a moment and maybe share a bit about like Stop and Shop and why they're taking this approach to community wellness.
Yeah. So we have a team of, we had 6, there's 4 of us now. And we work across various, I guess, we work very multidisciplinary, I guess, if you will. All of our services are free. There's no charge, there's no insurance involved. And we consider ourselves the bridge between your clinical providers or your clinical dietitian, your doctors, your nurses, because in the clinical setting, for a dietitian in the clinical setting, they're offering what was mentioned by Marianne earlier, medical nutrition therapy. So they're taking a look at your blood work. They're, they can see your medical history and they're making recommendations for you based on that. They might have, you might have gotten a diagnosis for prediabetes or something like that, right? And so you actually have to take those recommendations. You go home to your grocery store and figure out, now, what does that actually mean in terms of food? Like, what does prediabetes mean in terms of food, right? And so we're the bridge between those clinical providers. Though licensed to do medical nutrition therapy at Stop and Shop, we don't. Other grocery stores might do that. There's dietitians working in many different grocery stores. Some of them work more behind the scenes, more with regulatory things, with food labels and reformulating foods to make them healthier. Some of them are, leading health initiatives for the company, different things. But at Stop and Shop, we offer free services. That's one-on-one consultations, healthy grocery shopping guidance. We do classes in person and online. And then we partner with organizations in the community to provide programs. So such as this one tonight with Vital Connections. And then I work with the senior center, the nonprofit gym down the street, the Boys and Girls Club. So I'm kind of all in the community as well. So all of these services are free. There's no charge. And we also have a wellness space inside the Grove Hall store that we opened 2 years ago with the dietitian's office, and we host cooking demonstrations and programs in there. And we also open it to our community partners to use, so long as the programs are free and are centered around health and wellness. So that could also mean mental health. That could also mean financial wellness also. So that's kind of the suite. That's customer facing. Internally, we do a lot of stuff with our merchandise. So we're working with vendors to highlight more of those better for you items in our store. Why did we do this? Our president at the time was pretty big on health and wellness. He was at our sister company, Giant, in the Maryland area. And there was this grocery store there was just like one grocery store in a huge mile radius. And that community had high rates of nutrition-related chronic illnesses. Also, community that families were living with lower income. So there was a really a big need. And so they hired a dietitian to be in that store. And it was a successful program. So when he came to Stop and Shop, he worked with the Boston Public Health Commission and other community stakeholders over a number of years to figure out which one of our stores would be best suited for a program like this. In Grove Hall, there were some other ones that were really close behind, but the Grove Hall store popped up as the one that had the greatest need. And so that's why there's the dietitian's office and the wellness space inside the store. So our team of dietitians are grocery stores are grocery stores, right? You're gonna find cookies and crackers and all those other types of stuff. You find all kinds of things, right? But you also find fruits, vegetables, etc. And so um, uh, our role is to make sure that health strategies for the company are also on the table for customers. And when I came on board, you know, I was tasked to lead all of these programs and things like that. But I said, well, I need to hear from people first. Like, can we do a focus group? I don't know what people need. I'm not gonna just come up in here and say, let me do this and that. You know, you want to provide programs that people are looking for you to provide. So we did focus groups, and we heard people don't want me following them around the store, looking in their baskets. They just want me to be available when they want, whenever they want to come in, they can walk in. We heard that they wanted those more healthier options highlighted in their face rather than some of the other things. So we're doing a number of things in terms of like the positioning of food in the store. We're working with vendors. They've always worked with vendors around reformulating foods to make them healthier, because it's actually a goal for many grocery stores to have a lot of their food meet healthy foods, like healthy food goals. So reformulating the food, and again, just what kinds of programs and other things that we're doing to make sure that the customer, that's my job. Okay. You know, I'm there to make sure people are well and understand these are the things that are going to benefit your body and your health. And I want you to live, and I want to live, and I want your families to live. So that really is, that's my role. That's our role.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. And I put some links in the chat. I know you had given me a lot of them, but I'm going to put them all in the email. But I wanted to share like your wellness resources as well as your nutrition classes. And that's good to know that Stop and Shop is offering these services for free with no insurance, because I know that's a hurdle for a lot of people. So Christine, you and your team at Shop and Stop are doing the Lord's work. So thank you. You know, I guess one thing I'll ask, because I know you said that folks come in and like, you know, may check in with you. Do people have to make appointments to see your team, or they just walk in?
Yes, that's you can walk in. My office hours are Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. I'm usually there from like 9 to 4. I might, if for some reason you want to do a store tour because you can only do it on a Saturday or on a Friday or something like that, we can make a plan for that. So then we would have to schedule. But it does work best if someone schedules with me, just so that I'm, you know, if I'm in between meetings, I make sure I have enough time, you know, slotted out for you and all of that. So you can call the store. There's no voicemail, but you can call the store and it rings to the office. You can come in if you like. You can come in, schedule a meeting, or you can, you know, schedule a meeting using emailing me, and I'll put the email in the chat right now. So there's a number of different ways that you can reach me.
Sounds good. I know I'm putting it on my to-do list. So so yes, that's a great resource right there. I just wanted to make sure Christine has some space to share, because I think a lot of people don't realize that there's dietitians right there in the store. And even thinking about how dietitians impact the way that you shop, right? So I just really want to say thank you to you and your team for doing that kind of work and being proactive and hands-on. And thank you for putting your email in the chat, and I'll make sure to get that out to everyone when we're done. But just, I know we're going to open it up for questions a little bit, but I'm going to take a little, you know, presenter's privilege and ask a quick question, right? Because I know I'm starting to look at my list of what I'm going to cook. And I know like a lot of people, I have a big weakness for fried food, right? I love the crunch. I love the taste. So are there any things you could probably recommend for people who like that salt, that crunch? Because I know that's very popular, and you know, I know some people who deep fry their turkeys and all these other things. I know fried food is a big thing during the holidays. So just wanted to put that one out there to see if you could any of you offer any kind of recommendations or alternatives for that.
No one wants to say just don't eat the fried foods, right? No one wants to just say that. No one wants to be that villain. I believe that, and this is for me, and this might be a slap on the hand, comment to make, but I do choose my one sword when I'm having a holiday meal, right? I will decide, like, is it gonna be pie? Is it gonna be that fried chicken? I do allow myself to indulge in a moderate way. But there are lots of recipes. I don't like to say to people to oven fry things, right? Because people are like, that doesn't make sense. Culinarily it does, but I get it. I get why people are like, no. But we have so much new food technology these days, right? We have air fryers, which actually are really great tools for cooking with less fat in general, right? We have air fryers. I don't get any payment for this plug, but America's Test Kitchen has a lot of really great recipes to give you that crunch that do not require you to fry your food. Oddly enough, there is and it's actually my favorite recipe. I'll see if I can get it so we can share it out. And I know it's not the season for this, but there is like a grill fried chicken that is out of this world. If you want to crank, some people do crank out their grills in the wintertime, right? It's really delicious, but I use my air fryer so much more now. I very rarely fry anything, but you just kind of have to, do some deep dives. Don't wait till the holidays to start recipe testing. Like maybe for Christmas or Kwanzaa or Hanukkah, whatever you practice for the winter times. Give yourself some time in advance to, try some things that taste delicious to you. Because you might find that oven fried, air fried, alternate fried methods actually taste really good to you if you just want the crunch. But I see someone in the chat said the air fryer is their friend. It really is. It really is a great tool. It is very inexpensive. Children can use it. It's pretty safe. It's actually like a very family friendly kitchen tool. That's my take. I'm all about everything in moderation. Like I just can't, my body just doesn't even let me do it like I want to. I do want to eat 3 drumsticks. I do, but I can't. But I choose my sword every holiday and be at peace with that. And like, Christine and Rebecca said, it's not about staying on the path. It's being able to maybe take your foot off the pedal and then put your foot back on the pedal and keep going, right? That's really what it's about.
All right, so I'll add air fryer to my Christmas list. Still haven't gotten one, so really quick, Christine, I just wanted to see if you had any ideas around that too.
I think the first thing really that comes to my mind is enjoy your meals for the holidays, but really consider what's on the plate. Did you add some vegetables on the plate? Add some vegetables on your plate. Like try to make it as balanced as possible. Try a little bit here, there, right in your little green category. I did a program the other day. It was like healthy holidays. And we looked at 4 different recipes: macaroni and cheese, mashed potatoes, a pecan pie, and a stuffing. All things that are have that typically have for like the Thanksgiving holiday, and maybe even for the Christmas or the holidays. And they all sound good. Probably foods that we may be eating coming up. But when we really take a look again at that plate, all of those 4 recipes only fit in that quarter of the plate. Our protein is empty, and then that half plate with vegetables is empty. So we need to figure out how we're gonna first maybe change our portion sizes for some of those macaroni, cheese, mashed potatoes, all the grains and the starches. Make some smaller portions of those. figure out what kind of lean proteins we're going to put or protein we're going to put in that side of the plate, and then figure out what kinds of vegetables. And maybe it's not half, maybe it's like 3. You break the plate into 3, right? And you got a little bit more of the starch, some of your protein, etc. So just again thinking about the balance, and enjoy. But the bigger thing is not just for the holidays, especially if you have goals, especially if there's things happening with your health. You want to consider, what does my meals look like for the course of my life? Every day that I sit down to eat, what does it look like? And then in terms of cultural considerations too, I know I'm mentioning that plate. It might not be a plate. It might be a bowl. It might be a soup or a stew, right? Like a gumbo. So my thought would be, if you're having something that's in a bowl, if you were to imagine separating those ingredients out onto that diagram plate, will you have included enough vegetables? Did you include some lean protein? Did you include some of those whole grains? So no matter what you're eating, you can always envision or imagine that plate. And that plate is actually based on research that says when we portion out our meals in these kinds of ways with whole grains and lean proteins and vegetables and fruit, these are what provide the most benefit to our health. So it's not just some visual that they made up. It's actually based on research. So yeah, that's what I think. Get creative, but also think about what your goals are, and try to add in those things that might be missing from the plate that will add the most benefit to your health.
Awesome. So before we open it up,
I do
okay,
want
go
to add
ahead.
one tiny
Yeah.
little thing.
Go ahead.
One thing I stopped doing is, I know growing up we had these big plates, on Thanksgiving, everyone had the big plates to fit everything on it. So I don't buy those plates. I buy like the regular size plates, or when I serve, I use like the regular dinner plates, because I find that you tend to like fill up your plate, right? And then you go and you say, oh, you want to get more. But if you have a smaller plate, like your regular dinner size plate, you can still have everything, but you're not like filling up that big plate. And I noticed like around the house, like the stores have those big oval plates, so everyone's like stuffing the food on there, like smaller plates, smaller portions. You still have time to eat again, but you're not eating like that big plate twice. So that was just something that I practice is, the smaller plate.
Yeah, same here. So definitely agree with you on that. But I definitely want to kind of like end our open conversation with you, Rebecca, because I know now that we've talked about this food, and I know some folks are making plans, there are a lot of opportunities out there for the holidays to with different food drives and distributions. So I wanted to give you a minute to share a bit about our Thanksgiving resources and Friday after. So that way, if folks are interested in getting food for themselves, or if they're interested in volunteering, how they can connect.
Oh, absolutely. So, in terms of the Thanksgiving, we have a Thanksgiving resource guide. I see, Ayana, you put it in the chat. Thank you. And it lists by the area of Boston, places that you can go to get turkeys and other food items. And then we also have a food guide, like when it's not Thanksgiving, and it's updated weekly. So you're always going to get updated information on the resource. The Friday after is an event that we hold the day after Thanksgiving. And it started with Food Rescue US Boston. It still is they're still running it along with our food programs. And the reason it started was a lot of agencies are closed on Thanksgiving as well as the day after Thanksgiving. So supermarkets have tons of surplus foods from anywhere from Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Stop and Shop, and wholesale produce places like Katsaruba, Fresh Truck. So rather than having that food go to waste, because that is a big goal of ours, is not to waste food and get the food out into the community, we hold a huge event. We have a site in Hyde Park at the Hyde Park Boston Prep High School. We have a site in Mattapan that's at the Church of Gospel. And then we have Roslindale Favor, that's Archdale Housing Complex. And then this year we've added Roxbury, which is the Roxbury Farmers Market. I'm drawing Bruce Bowling Building. It's held the day after Thanksgiving. We always need volunteers. We'll share the link to the Sign Up Genius. It is open to the public, no ID, no questions asked, and all the sites are distributing between 1 and 2 o'clock. It's walk up, drive up, you get a box or a bag of groceries, and we have plenty of food. And it's good, healthy food. Whole Foods is one of the biggest ones in Trader Joe's that we go out and rescue from. So we'd love to have you come out and get food. We'd love for you to share. But also if you want to come out and volunteer for a couple of hours, we'd love that too.
Awesome. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure to shout that out because I think it's really great. You all did so much great work last year. I can't wait to see what happens for this
I'm
year's Friday
excited.
After, and it's the first thing that's on the Thanksgiving resource guide. But of course, you're going to get this all via email, so that way you know how to follow up in case you want to volunteer or go out to one of the locations and pick up food. But now that we're at 7:30, I kind of want to take a deep breath and catch my breath, but also give everyone opportunity to share or ask questions, because I feel as though I know we all have our own questions about eating during the holidays or kind of like maintaining our wellness plan right now. So wanted to open the floor to you all to see who has a question. So any attendees, feel free to put your stuff in the chat, or you can raise your hand like Valerie. Valerie, I see your hand, so feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, I have a couple of questions, but I'm gonna make it really quick so they can just, cause they like boom, boom, boom. The first one, what are legumes? If I even said it right? What are they? L? I think it
Beans.
was L. Yes.
Beans.
What? Beans? Oh,
Peanuts are considered legumes. But beans.
okay. And what are some fatty fish?
Oh, salmon.
Oh, I got that. Okay, that's good.
Yep, healthy
I don't
fatty
need
fish.
any more. And
Yep.
what else has potassium besides the things that you named?
I didn't name those. I think that was our
Oh, that was
that was
Christina. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Christine, yeah.
You've got sweet potatoes, regular potatoes. You have cantaloupe. There's I mean, we could search a list. Let me see if I can find one and drop it in the chat for you.
Okay. All right.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
Are you okay?
I have a question. Sorry. And those are healthy foods, which we're talking about right now? Legume is healthy.
Yeah.
Healthy foods,
Yeah,
right?
just to kind of confirm, she's just asking like the beans, the sweet potatoes, those are good examples for folks to shop, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm mad about shrimp being high in cholesterol. I got my lip poked out right now.
It is.
You're not the only one.
Now I learned something new. Now I'm sad.
Yeah, I found out today. I'm hurt.
What about lobster?
Uh-oh. I'm getting off. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Is that a healthy one?
I'll have to look that up. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let me see if I can find it. But you guys can continue asking questions. I'll see if I can.
Okay. Yep. Nicole, I see your hand raised.
I was gonna just ask, how do you get like a copy of all the information that you put in the chat?
Yeah, we're gonna send an email to everyone afterwards because I know it's a lot of information coming. So you'll get a follow-up email with everything, like a recap. You'll get a replay link, so you get to listen back if you want. And we'll also share links to all of these things as well as some other resources.
Do I need to re-put my email in there?
Whatever one that you use to join the call tonight, you'll get it sent to that email.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So I just searched on our website for lobster. I'm looking at the nutrition facts for this particular one. It is high in cholesterol. And I know shrimp tends to be higher in naturally occurring sodium. So just a few pieces of shrimp, you can actually, your sodium intake can go pretty high. So again, what I say is think about how you're balancing your meals. All right. What else are you adding to your plate that is going to help to balance those things out and benefit you? So those are our foods high in fiber, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, how you can incorporate more lean protein, how you can incorporate some of those whole grains as well. So think about balance.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Nicole has her hand up.
Nicole, you still have it up? Or is this the old hand?
That's all here. I'm sorry, I'll lower it.
It's okay. It's okay. I guess one thing I can ask you while some folks are pondering, I know we've been talking a lot about like, the more like, oh, like what are we choosing? What are we let's celebrate some things that we know that are good, right? Can each of you maybe share something that you know that you love to eat during the holidays that either, and I know Elle, you shared a bit of it when you're talking about the sweet potatoes that you prepared. Like, what are some things that you have made that are healthy, that you love, that you're just like, I can't wait to bring this to next week's dinner?
I don't know how
Give us some
healthy it is,
inspiration.
but I love sweet potato pie and collard greens, but I don't know how healthy because you know how we cook. But it's gonna be
Yeah, I
good
hear that,
though.
Sandra.
It's gonna be good though.
Yeah,
But the greens will be healthy because I cook them with smoked turkey, so that would be healthy.
I do too. So yeah, we're thinking about that. Are there any other things that you can think of that are good, that you cook that are going to be good? Because I love making greens because I feel like, collards, using like a low salt chicken broth, the onions, those kind of things. I think again, sticking to the playbook of doing whole ingredients is really helpful. So I know I always try to like stick to greens. But are there any other things that you all make that might give us some inspiration on how we think about what we could do this Thanksgiving? And that's open to any of you.
Like I said before, whatever I make, I try to use whole ingredients. Like even though I was taught, like I make corn pudding, right? And instead of using canned corn, sometimes I'll use frozen, but if fresh is available, I'll use that, and overall using just a small amount of, it requires only a small amount of cream or milk, maybe an egg or two. It's, and then the corn, it's relatively healthy, and it's baked, right? So I'm always just monitoring how much ingredients am I using. Like I'm typically never using more than a tablespoon or 2 of butter in any recipe. Like 2 is if it's super savory, but I do that. I make 7-layer salad. My grandmother always made a good 7-layer salad, which is always like greens, peas, carrots. You can go with or without the bacon bits if you like, 7-layer salad is a superstar in our household. I'm trying to think what else. I think those are my primary things, but just like our other panelists have said, just finding the balance, like making sure I have enough fresh vegetable, cooked vegetable, so that the plate is balanced. And we do use smaller plates as well in my household. We use much smaller plates, and that is really, really helpful.
Anyone else know what they're bringing to the to the table that might be a good idea for us to think about when we're cooking next week?
I am I'm not gonna be cooking this time. But sometimes on the table we might have a fish tea soup. We might have, and that has onions and garlic and bell peppers, some, some fish and like, we season it up. We might have some kalalu, or some other kind of greens that we stew down, whether that be like collard greens. Someone mentioned collard greens. So, what else? We might have a curry chicken. Someone mentioned curry chicken. Somebody might make oxtail, some rice and peas. So again, in all of these, like, these are not inherently bad foods, right? Like there's not, these are great. And culturally speaking, if we're talking about the diaspora, the African diaspora, if you go back, all of our foods were mainly plant-based foods. We ate a lot of vegetables, a lot of things. And just depending on where we were dispersed throughout the world, we used what we had and transformed our food in different ways. So you might find more saltier or, different kinds of foods made with the fat or, meats and stuff like that. But again, if I'm making my plate, I'm thinking about, let me see how I can add some color and add some kind of balance, right? Some kind of vegetables or something to it. I love macaroni and cheese. Stuffing is like one of my favorite Thanksgiving dishes, and with cranberry sauce. But I'm always like, okay, so what's my protein and what's my vegetables? So they all have really great health benefits in terms of like your collard greens and your sweet potatoes. But think about how you make it, how much you're having, and then what else are you going to add to it to make it more balanced. So you don't feel bad about eating your meal. Just think about how you can make sure you're eating so that it's, most benefit to your body.
Definitely. Rebecca, you got any tips and tricks or anything that you make that you think might be a good recommendation for folks?
I do, I still do the candy yams, but I don't use white sugar. And I use honey as well. But I also do a butternut squash, where it's not like blended, it's chunked up, and I use pineapple instead of sugar. So pineapple, nutmeg, and just a little bit of brown sugar. And the kids like it just like candy yams. So that's been like a good, alternative to like the sweet candy yams. But I grew up, my mother was diabetic, so we never had sugar in the house. We never had juice in the house. And I did it with my older kids. They're like, oh, my friend used to tease me, all you have is milk and water. I'm like, yes, all we have is milk and water. Because my mother was severe diabetic, so I don't buy white sugar, and so I tend to like use the brown sugar, and they don't see a difference in it when you add like pineapple juice to it.
Good to know. That's a good tip.
There are a lot
Any
of
other? Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
good alternatives to white sugar. I use coconut sugar. What else? Oh man, there's so many that are not like synthetic but natural sugars. You just like, if you look in the baking aisle, they're there. They are there, maybe more so at Whole Foods. But I use agave sometimes. I use agave. Little things that bring texture, like toasted hazelnuts, using almonds, getting a lot of that healthy fat in. I mean, sometimes it's just like trying a new thing. I tend to make a lot of my own things from scratch. Like sometimes I make my own croutons for dressing, just so that I know, what's in it. Using dairy alternatives can also be very helpful, as long as you're checking like the sugar content in it, right? Like you can use like macadamia. Every nut milk exists now, has a healthy option. I've been leaning into like macadamia nut milk lately, and I really like it, especially for baking. and maybe things that can lend to have a little bit of a sweet flavor to it. I've been using it in like Penang curries, you know, because I'm growing to have a little bit of a coconut milk sensitivity, because I only drink coconut milk because I don't like whole milks at all, you know, animal milks. I never have. You know, but and I see some people have nut allergies. I get that. There's rice milk, there's oat milk. You know, there's a lot of alternatives that you can, like I said, you have to like test them by brand to find out which ones you like. You know, sometimes it's a wonderful discovery. Sometimes it's fun to do. Sometimes it's not so fun when it doesn't taste so great, but then you know what you like and what you don't like and what options you have out there.
And I'll add to kind of the nutrition of this. So if you're swapping from like a whole milk to like a macadamia milk, I'm looking at the saturated fat content right now, and whole milk is about 5 grams of saturated fat for a cup, and then for the macadamia, it's about 0.5 grams. So you've drastically reduced the amount of saturated fat, which again, saturated fat increases bad cholesterol, something we want to limit. So, right, thinking about the healthfulness of the swaps, and especially if it tastes the same, you know, if you give it a try and you like it. I will say though, because I want to clarify, because I think it's a common misconception when it comes to our sugars. If it's for diabetes, again, there might be different goals, right? Different things happening for people in terms of their health. Sugars are considered carbohydrates, and carbohydrates break down into glucose. And glucose is what impacts our blood sugar. So it doesn't matter if it's a white sugar or a brown sugar or a maple syrup or anything that we consider nutritive sweeteners, meaning they give calories, they're carbohydrate, they give calories, is going to break down into glucose and impact your blood sugar. So you want to be mindful of that. But I really like what you said, Rebecca, because you said you might do some of the, and the brown sugar has a little bit more vitamins and minerals. The coconut sugar might have a little bit more vitamins and minerals, but it still will break down into to glucose and impact your blood sugars. So how much you use will be something to consider. But I like that you said you included a little bit of the pineapples or pineapple juice. So, you know, like you can use a fruit to sweeten things. It still is going to have sugar, but added sugar, it can be easy to just add sugar in versus like using a fruit. You get some fiber and some other things in it too. So there's so many ways you can kind of tweak it, but I want to make sure I clarified that.
Yeah, I feel like the sugar is one of those things that has our community in a chokehold, right? As the kids say. And I think it's really important that you brought that up. Thank you. Because I think a lot of times we think of just sugars as being something sweet, right? But there's different ways for us to look at like how the body defines sugar versus like the sweets that we know. So thank you. I think that's really important to bring up. Because it's you know, it's like, I know I love me some bread and butter, but also it's like, okay, yes, butter is, you know, butter, but bread too, because bread breaks down because it's a carbohydrate into sugar. So, you know, it's also thinking about like the pastas and all of those things too. So, you know, you try to think about all those things under like the umbrella of sugar. It's not just sweets.
And it's not to say you can't have them, right? Again, I'm coming back to, again, the balance. How much are you having? Are you piling the plate high? Is there vegetables? Is there like other things on the plate to help, you know, balance everything out as it's being digested in the body? So we talked about plate size. We've talked about how much, all of that. So just, you know, it's not to say you can't have something sweet. It's just how much you're having. And what else are you eating?
All right, so we got 10 minutes left, so I just want to flag that for everyone. Are there any other questions that folks have for Elle, Christine, or Rebecca?
Where do grits sit on this line? What are they? I need to know. I eat them with my shrimp.
That's a great question. Grits are made of corn.
Yeah.
So in terms of ingredient, that's where it's from. Nutritional value, not sure I want to know because I eat them almost every day, but I will defer to the,
Okay,
to the
Christine.
experts.
Unmute. I have to look at the nutrition label, but yes, grits are corn.
Uh-oh.
They're considered a starchy vegetable.
Uh,
So you pairing it with the protein is actually great. We always say if you're having a carbohydrate, if you can pair it with a healthy fat or some kind of protein or lean protein, it helps to balance the meal. So you adding the shrimp in is a great idea.
but I have to add another protein to counter it.
No, that's your protein. So the shrimp is your protein source. If you want to
But it
add some
has it's
vegetables, that'd be great. But
vegetables with grits?
oh, you can have it on the side.
Saute some peppers and onions with a nice little little seasoning, and it is the mushrooms. Do you like mushrooms? Mushrooms?
No, I don't do those ones.
No.
I'm trying to think of.
Peppers, onions. I'm trying to think of another vegetable that's really good. Do you like cauliflower at all?
You know, they don't have a taste. I could do that.
Okay, roast some cauliflower in the oven.
Yeah.
That's very good.
It ain't got no color though. That's just white on white. And
Well, when you roast it, it's gonna get
you
brown.
put the little brown. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna
Okay,
get
that's
brown.
good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I ain't go shopping yet. All right. That sounds good. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You know what else is good?
What?
Callaloo.
I
Callaloo.
never had callaloo. What is that?
It's like collard greens. It's basically like the Caribbean's queen of collard greens. It is so good.
I never see. I thought it was a fish.
It's a vegetable. The
So
tropical.
I
you
just
can
wish
get it
we
at
could
tropical
grow
market.
it here all year long.
I know. It's very good.
Okay, I need a picture of that so when I go in the store, because I know I live in Chelsea, so
I've only had it in the can. Can you get it fresh anywhere?
I grew it this year. You can grow it. I grew it this year. It's just the minute the frost hits, it's over.
So
Yeah.
like that's it. Yeah.
And the
But
urban
it grows
farm,
really fast.
can you
Like it
spell that
grows
in
like
the can you spell
wildfire.
that
It
in the
grows
chat
really fast.
so I can add it to my list of stuff to put in my email? Catalog,
yeah.
CA.
And the Urban Farm Institute, I think they usually grow some callaloo as well. They're like a
Yes.
local farm, and there's some
And
other local farms.
tropicals too.
And okay,
Tropicals, they always have, yeah.
they have it
Yeah.
fresh. My
Yeah,
goodness.
it's just
I need to go.
it's expensive. It's like $6.99 a bunch, but you can grow it so it grows really fast. Like you can't stop the grow of it
How
because
does
the
it cook
seeds
it?
are so tiny.
You
How
cook
do
it
you
like
cook it?
collards, like collard greens, stew it, like saute it. You can put a little vegetable broth or chicken broth, season it, some onion. That's at least that's the Black American way I would make it. It pales in comparison to the way the people in the Caribbean cook it. You know, but it's kind of it's the cousin of collards, and so if you treat it that way, you can't go wrong.
I don't know how to cook collard, so I could probably go wrong.
Well, this would be good practice for you. And you
Right,
will-
low and slow. That's all I know is low and slow.
That's right.
Let me add that to my list here.
It cooks fast. I will say that. It's not something that takes a long time.
So it's like a fried cabbage. You can do it like that or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is it dark green or light green or?
Dark green.
Oh, good.
It can easily be mistaken for collards. Like if to the to the regular human eye, like unculinary trained person, you'd be like,
Me?
it's the same.
Okay.
Yeah. It's delicious. You're gonna love it.
Okay. This has really been good. I love this.
We're happy. We're always happy to have this space and make sure that you're learning new things, that you can ask the questions, because like we say every month, usually when we think about going to our doctor's office, we're not thinking about this conversation, right? So it's really good that we get to meet different people in the community that are focused on different parts of our health, to show that there's so many people here that have so much information and that aren't just at your doctor's office, right? We're all over the place in community, right? We're at the grocery store. at, you know, in institutions like America's Test Kitchen, making recipes for everyone, you know, or being in the community and advocating for the access for all these things. So just, you know, wanted to share that we're really, I love the community convo space because it brings so many unique people together in order for us to achieve our health goals. So Valerie, I'm really happy that you were able to get some things on your shopping list and get to know, you know, and get to know some really great tips and tricks. But we're almost at 8 o'clock, so I just wanted to, you know, give a minute to see if anyone else had any, like we have one last question, and then we're gonna close out. Patricia?
I'm sorry, I had my pupils dilated, so I can't find the hand
Oh,
button.
it's okay.
I
It's
have a
okay.
question. Are hemp seeds good for you?
Hemp seeds.
What do you
What do
use
you-
them? What do you use them for?
Somebody gave them to me, and I haven't cracked them open yet. I was just wondering were they good for you?
Okay. You know,
Much-
do you know how to use them?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so hemp seeds tend to be higher in protein. It's got a little bit of fiber. So a great, you know, you can add it in to get some extra fiber, and then also some protein as well. It's pretty good in protein. So you can add it on a salad, you can put it in a smoothie. You can literally, it has a little bit of a nutty flavor. So you crack it open and maybe throw it on a salad or
Could I mix it with
in a
yogurt?
drink. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've done
Okay.
that before. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Sure, you're
Now
welcome.
that she said that about those, what about chia seeds?
Chia seeds is high in fiber. It's got a little bit of protein. So if you want to get some extra fiber in, which again is great is a rock star when it comes to our health overall. Yeah, so same thing. You put in yogurt, oatmeal. You could
Water.
mix it in with a peanut butter. You could put it in water. It gets gelatinous, very like thick,
Yeah.
and some people don't like that, but you could, yeah.
And the Crystal Light packet.
There are some that have no sugar added. You can look. I would have to look at see which one you like and the ingredients. So feel free to connect with me and we could talk a little bit more about it.
All right. And the zero sugar Gatorade. I was told by a doctor the Gatorade that has zero sugar is the best Gatorade.
It depends on what you're taking it for. So if you're taking it for because you're working out, you know, like, is it blood sugar management? Right.
A diabetic.
Okay. So yes, it doesn't have there's no sugars in it, so it's not going to impact your blood sugars, but it might have, depending on which one, it might have some different sweet, what we call non-nutritive sweeteners. So some other sweetener things that add sweetness. Some of them can cause like you to go to the bathroom a little bit more. There's some research around some of the other ones, so I would have to know which one you like to pick up, and we'd have to look at the ingredients. But it won't impact blood sugars, if you know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And my email is in the chat.
I have
And
one
we're going to
more.
make sure.
I'm sorry. Truvia, is that good for you?
So email me. Let's talk about it, because there's like so many different kinds. And I want to be able to offer you not just an example of what this is, and I got to look this up too, right? Look it up, talk through it, and give you some alternatives as well.
Okay.
If you don't like what I tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yes, and we're going to make sure that you have ways to get all the resources we talked about, follow up with Christine, with NFAC, like with everything that we talked about today. So if you registered, we have your email. So you will get all this. I need to download the recording, get it up so I can send it to you all so you can listen back to this conversation as well. So you will have everything. So again, I just want to thank, you know, Christine and Elle and Rebecca for coming out tonight and being a part of this community convo. I always feel like we could always do this all night, but you know, we gotta go to sleep and make, you know, maybe make some dinner, some you know, some health conscious dinner now that I know some things. I definitely wanted to close out tonight and say thank you to you all, but wanted to give you all a moment because I know we're almost at time. Just wanted to give you all maybe like if each of you want to give a final thought. And while you're going around and doing that, everyone, I put the link in the chat for our survey, our feedback survey. Please fill that out. It's really important for us to know what you all want from this space. So giving your feedback is really important. But I'm going to open it up to our special guest tonight, just to kind of go around and share final thoughts. And then I'm going to kind of share one more thing, and then we'll be done for the evening.
I'll say just be brave and don't be afraid to try new approaches to food. Be open-minded. It's not necessarily about bravery. Just be open-minded and open to suggestion. Also, I would like to, another plug that I'm not getting paid to do, but America's Test Kitchen has cookbooks that are for individuals who have issues with diabetes or are addressing their diabetic concerns. And some other books, gluten-free books, things like this that we've worked closely with nutritionists to make sure that we nail the most important health points. You can check them out on Amazon, America's Test Kitchen cookbooks on Amazon, very easy to find. And you can always reach out to me if you have any questions.
Thank you.
I can go. I think I want to see you at an INFAC meeting. I want to see you at one of our sites. I want to see you at the Friday after. But also like as it, you know, relates to Thanksgiving dinner and nutrition, it's moderation and trial and error. So don't be afraid, just go for it. But we would love to see you at an INFAC meeting or volunteering at one of our distribution sites.
And I am available in the community whenever you need, you know, to ask your questions, to help get some guidance. I'll take the time with you. So thank you for having me.
Yes. I'm really appreciative of this time and this community convo. Especially, I know some folks know, and this news has been going around, but this is my last week with Vital Connections. I'm going to be transitioning into a new role in a new space, but I'm definitely taking this past year of convos and community health hubs with me. I wanted to take a moment to thank you all for making, you know, making this a really bright spot in my experience here with doing, you know, community partnership work, connecting with the people who are making things happen in Boston, and you all inspire me. So I just wanted to say thank you for giving us all space to share, you know, these up-to-date resources, to have real conversations that we haven't been having in the community or with our doctors or with other folks. I think for me, it made me realize that we're all very similar, you know? So I really appreciate the time that I've had with you all. I appreciate my team, Ariel, Mariana, Mary, Marianne, who's been helping with our community convos, and our other scholar, Shui, Rebecca. Thank you for being a great community leader, as well as I know your counterpart over at Health Leads, Rick. I really appreciate you all. You've been a wonderful team, but this is, you know, this is my last event, so I feel a little sad, but I'm really happy that I was able to share information and grow and learn about, you know, my own health journey with you all. So I really appreciate you all. So with that, I want everyone to have a good night. Take care of yourself. I will be making sure that we send the recap and the resources with you all. Please stay tuned, and we'll be sharing some more information about community convos in the future. But otherwise, God bless you all. Have a great holiday season and eat something good. Eat something good. So everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And have a good night. Take care.
Good night.
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
Thank you.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Good
Good
night.
evening, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Good
Yeah,
night.
this is my
Happy
first one
Thanksgiving,
of the
everyone.
evening.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right.